My name is Eben and I'm an English Opens Door volunteer. I actually studied 2 different degrees. I first started with a Bachelor of Commerce, specializing in human resources management. And then later I followed my passion and I studied a master's in law. Right before I came to Chile for the past year, I've been traveling internationally, volunteering with my girlfriend. And before that, I worked in law enforcement. I was a public prosecutor. I was placed in a city called Coyhaique, which is in the 11th region, the Aysén region. And I was there for the second semester for 4 months, from the beginning of August until the end of November. I think there were a couple of things. I think when we started off on this volunteer journey, Fran really wanted to go to India. I really wanted to go to South America. So we decided to split the difference and go to both. What drew me to this program specifically, I think, was from the first time I came across your website. Just the professionalism, the way it was presented, from my initial inquiries that I made, the quick responses, the professional attitude of the volunteer center staff, and then to come to South America to see a different culture. You know, once you start looking into volunteering opportunities, you also find a lot of voluntourism opportunities, which you pay somebody a fee to place you somewhere, and I don't really agree with that concept. I think it's just a business. You shouldn't pay somebody to volunteer your time. And so this was in line with what we were looking for. It wasn't an opportunity where you pay an intermediary to place you somewhere. And we wanted to make sure that wherever we end up volunteering, it will make an impact, it will be a difference. And that has been my experience from day one, applying for this program. I would say it was a phenomenal experience. I really enjoyed it a lot. I think everything I envisaged that I wanted to try and achieve, I did. I think the volunteers are placed at schools that really need it. And I can speak for myself and from Fran's experience. We were placed in vulnerable schools with vulnerable students. And by the time I left, I really do think that I did make an impact. And I think that is important, and I think in that sense I have achieved my goal. And I think also with the assistance from the volunteer staff, the volunteer center staff is always just been an email or a phone call away. I don't think I would have been prepared for the classroom if we did not receive that training during the first week of orientation. It definitely helped a lot, and especially the model that is being used in this program, and the model that we got taught by the volunteer center staff. It definitely prepared us. For me personally, I wouldn't have known where to start. I'm not a teacher. Never taught before in my life. During my professional career, I did some adult training, adult workshops, but it's not the same thing as teaching children. So yes, without that, I would have been in the deep water, struggling to swim. Coyhaique is, after speaking to my teachers, they informed me that Coyhaique, or the 11th region, is the most isolated region in the country. A lot of people come to Santiago and go straight to Punta Arenas and skip the region in between. So Coyhaique is quite isolated in that regard. And it's also the capital of the region. So there's quite a number of people. I've been informed about 30 odd schools in the greater Coyhaique area. The community is lovely. Everything is happening around the central plaza, which is beautifully maintained. And in the afternoons, you'll see families walking there. There's a water fountain. There's always dogs. So that's the one amazing thing about my experience in Chile is even the street dogs are well taken care of. None of them are hungry and sick. And that was my experience there. All the street dogs were, you could actually sit in the park bench and have lunch. None of the dogs will come and beg because they're not hungry. And so everything is happening around there, and the people are just so friendly. It was a challenge, me not being able to speak Spanish, which was a bit of a challenge, but people are so friendly and open, and there's a huge military presence there. And I think a testament to military cuisine everywhere, you would always find the soldiers at the confectionaries buying food. My partner and myself, we chose not to live with a host family, but we chose to rather take the option of independent living. Independent living was, I think it has its advantages and disadvantages. I think the biggest disadvantage was not having the exposure and the experience of living with a family and the true Chilean family life and getting introduced to family and a social circle. So when you're independent, you lose out on that. And again, not speaking Spanish is also a problem. But again, it also allows you more freedom in a sense to come and go as you please. You don't have to, there's no family who you have to consider or somebody's house rules, that you come and go as you please. And I think for Fran and myself, being a little bit older than the average age of the volunteers, it also worked well in that sense. The landscape is phenomenal. As you know, it was Rugby World Cup here, and me being South African, rugby is in our blood. And I always knew at the time from last year when we went on this journey that come Rugby World Cup 2015, I'll be somewhere in Chile. And I know rugby is not a big thing in Chile. I've always wondered, where will I watch the rugby? And believe it or not, I found a rugby club in Patagonia, in Coyhaique. Very, very active rugby club, the most beautiful scenery in the valley, the mountains all around. And it is actually at a lodge, and there's an attorney in town who knows the owner of the lodge, and he's like sort of the president of the rugby club, and they get all the local school boys and girls involved in a rugby. They actually had two big matches on the day of the Rugby World Cup final. They actually had two teams from Argentina for Argentinian coach busting in, and we had a massive rugby day, and we joined, we played, and they had the old-timers and the youngsters, and the old-timers shouting at the ref, yet telling the youngsters not to shout at the ref. So it was really, really good fun, and I never knew I'd found a rugby club in the middle of Patagonia. It's very similar in a sense to South African culture. I think the thing we have in common the most is asado, which we call braai in South Africa. We love the outdoors, we love nature, and we are very open and hospitable people. And if you meet somebody new, you come to my house for a braai and a beer. That is just what we do. And that is what I experience also. Some of my teachers invited me to their house for an asado. And I think just the openness of the people and the friendliness and to just be hospitable and enjoying outdoors, enjoying asados. Yeah, so that is definitely, for me, it's been a highlight. I think it is exactly needed. I think the program is placing volunteers in the right schools. I don't think it will have such a big impact if this program placed volunteers in schools that are more affluent, have got more resources, a stronger admission policy, have got students from a more advantaged background, and that was my experience. And it was sad that one day my head teacher and I had a discussion, and she told me that the general view around town is that all the rubbish comes to the school, and I was like, wow, these kids are great. Obviously you'll have your one or two who's always acting up, but that's teenagers, too cool for school, want to impress the girls or the friends. But in general, they were great students. And so and if I see the difference that it's made in the short time from coming there and leaving, and all the thank you cards that I received from students, it's really, I would do it over again on a heartbeat. Yeah. I think in a classroom context for this program it's very good, because the students at first don't believe you can't speak Spanish, and then after 2 or 3 weeks they realize you can't speak Spanish, and then they try and speak English a little more. But it's also challenging that you can't really interact with the other staff, the other teachers, or just with the students on a more social level, or the students that are not in your class. So I think that has been, but it's been a general challenge in Chile, because Chile is a Spanish-speaking country. That's just the bottom line. I think there were one or two definite highlights. I think one of the things was starting every lesson with the date, and I know that the TH sound is a difficult sound to pronounce for Spanish speakers, and the date in 2015, so I was like the crazy gringo, like 2015, and they all laughed, and by the end they were all doing it, and the one would show the other one, and I think that was quite an achievement. And yeah, there was one of the kids, won't mention his name, but he was one of the ones that everybody tells you, this one is just, you just forget about him. He's on thin ice, he's going to be kicked out of school, he's always acting up. And for the first bit in my class, he was acting up a bit. And then later, he was like, and he struggled and with tongue twisters, but he did it. And we got a new student like midway through, and we always played a game. I tried to teach them telling time in English. So I had flashcards with time. They would compete against each other. They loved competing for sweets. And he would actually take this kid and explain the rules to him. So yeah, I felt I got through to him. And when we left, he actually came up to me and gave me a huge bear hug. I think much more personally. Professionally, it is way different to what I've done before in my professional career. It did confirm to me that I'm not a teacher. I think on a personal level, I always had a healthy respect for teachers and what they do and the value of education. Coming from South Africa, President Mandela was very passionate about education. He famously said that the most powerful weapon we have to bring change to the world is education. And I believe in that passion, and I believe in lifelong learning. You can never stop learning. And I think from a personal point of view, it just reinforced my respect for teachers, for the good work they do, for the tremendous amount of work they do. Especially in Chile, the school days are extremely long. Back in South Africa, school days are from 8 to 1. Here it's from high school 8 until to 5:45. It's a very, very long day. And then the teachers go home and prepare lessons, and tomorrow morning 8 o'clock they start. But also I think the students, having the stigma of you come to the school and you sort of regarded as the rubbish. But when we arrived there, it was still the end of winter, just in August. So when we walked to school at 7:30 in the morning, it was pitch black dark, the stars was up. It's freezing cold, but when the bell rings, the students are there, ready to learn. Not all of them are equally motivated to learn English per se, but they are there, and so for me, I think personally reinforced the value of teachers, and also just the resilience of humanity and wanting to learn, and the students, despite their challenging circumstances, they are there and they're trying to make something of themselves. I think being in a different country, different culture, I think that is part of traveling in general, and I've experienced that in Chile as well. See how different people live, and to reinforce my belief that there are much more that unite us than what separates us. We are more the same than we actually realize. We might speak a different language, or we might have a different appearance, but deep down we're all just the same. We want the same general basic things for ourselves and our families, and I think traveling and coming to Chile just reinforced that. Changing my perspective, I can't think of anything. I've been reinforcing a lot of things, yeah, like I just said, reinforcing my valuable, the high regard that I hold teachers in, and humanity being basically good. And also, this experience has also, it's not been without its challenges. You're in a different country where you don't speak the language, you're far away from home, from your family, been on the road for a while. Sometimes lessons don't go exactly according to plan, and but it's like life in general. There are ups and downs, and this was the same. There were awesome moments and there were challenging moments, but you just learn to deal with it. Put your head down, kick your heels in, and just work at it. And the challenging times will pass as well. But in general, it's been a fabulous experience, really awesome. it was my intention not to return to what I've been doing. I used to be a police homicide detective for 14 years. I studied law and then I became a prosecutor. So for the best part of my adult life, I've been working with criminals. And you get to a point where you think it's enough now. So it was always my idea to go back home and do something completely different. With the experience you get from traveling. We are going to be in Santiago for the next 3 days, and then we're heading a short little holiday back home through Argentina and Uruguay before flying home. And we've actually been very fortunate and blessed with a fabulous opportunity. We live in a small little fishing village about 200 kilometers outside of Cape Town called Paternoster. And a friend of ours has tended to set up and run a camp in a nature reserve. She's been awarded a tender and she's asked Fred and myself to manage the camp. So we're going to go back, and I'm going to hate my life living on the beach every morning, wake up next to the sound of the ocean every morning. But yeah, that is what we're looking forward to. And it's like you said before, it is a bittersweet experience. It's sad that this is ending. It's sad that this journey is ending, but at the same time, this door is closing, but another door opens, a new opportunity, a new challenge, but enriched from this experience and carrying it forward. Well, from my personal experience, I can say that having traveled previously and volunteered previously through different organizations, this has without a doubt been the program that has been the most professionally run, managed and presented from day one, from my first initial inquiry. Being a little bit older than the average volunteer, I was lucky to get in, and I'm very happy that I've been given the opportunity and been accepted. What I would say to somebody sitting on the fence is, have a passion for teaching, have a passion for giving something back, for educating a young mind. Bearing in mind that this is hard work. It takes dedication, it is hard work, but it's so worth it. And yeah, bottom line is just do it. If your heart is in the right place and you've got a passion for teaching, you are right for this program. I think it's so diverse. There are so many diverse regions, and people are dynamic. I don't like putting people in boxes. Whatever your background, I think if you come in with the right attitude and the right intentions, that's it, go for it. Learn Spanish, definitely. Make sure you can speak at least passable Spanish when you arrive. It makes things very easy. And yeah, that's it. Come here with an open mind, don't come with preconceived ideas or expectations. Like I said, it's like life in general. You will have ups and downs, and we won't all experience the same challenges or the same situation as being challenging. And there are so many different schools, so many different families, so many different communities. So just come here and have an open mind and a willingness to go with the flow and do the best that you can.